Hello, this is a very short tutorial on how to make a Photoshop image which is solid at the top and fades to a collection of geometric shapes at the bottom with a transparency behind it. It's a nice effect for creating a uniformity between images for using in things like calendars or brochures, where you want to have a series of images with the same shape and cropping effects applied. You start by making a new Photoshop document. I'm going to make this document letter landscape at 300 dpi in RGB with a transparent background. Now the first thing you need to do is make a brush, and for the purpose of this tutorial I'm going to make a rectangular brush. So you draw out a rectangle using your marquee tool and you fill that rectangle with black. Now while that rectangle is still selected, go to the edit menu, go to the define brush preset, give your brush a name, and then click OK. Now that you've created your brush, you don't need the rectangle anymore, so you can delete it and deselect it. And now we have a Photoshop document with an empty layer in it. Your next step is going to be to create a new layer and convert it into a smart object. So click and drag that first layer down to the new layer icon in your layers palette, and it'll create a new layer. Right click on that layer in the blue space next to layer 1 copy text and click the convert to smart object option. Now double click on the icon for that layer, and that's going to open up that layer as a new Photoshop document which will be saved inside the other one. That's what they call a smart object. Now into this smart object we need to add a few things. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill the background with white. And then I'm going to go to the File menu, Place Embedded, and I'm going to put a photograph inside my smart object. Now that's a little small, so I'm going to go up and click the link between the width and the height sections there, and I'm going to increase the size of my image until it completely fills my area. And then I'm going to click Save, and I'm going to close the smart object. Now you'll see that my smart object layer is populated with that image. The next step is to mask the image. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a layer mask which completely hides this image. And the way we do that is to select the smart object layer, go down to the Create Layer Mask option at the bottom of the Layers palette, and then I'm going to click the Alt key. If you're on a Mac, you can click the Option key, and then click the Add Layer Mask, and that's going to fill the layer mask while it creates with black, which completely blacks out our image. The next step is to select the brush that we just made. And you'll notice that when we filled this smart object with black, it automatically changed the foreground color in our image to white. So we can paint with this rectangle brush that we made now with white. And now you want to make sure that your layer mask is selected. Now if you look closely, right now I have the layer selected, the smart object selected. But if I click on the layer mask itself next to that smart object, it highlights the layer mask. That's how you can tell that the layer mask is active. And now we'll paint into that with the white rectangle brush. And I'm going to set the opacity kind of low at about 28%. Then I'm going to click with my brush. You'll notice I'm not dragging it, I'm just clicking so that we can see those rectangles distinctly. And some of them I'm leaving space between them. You can change the size of your brush, make it smaller or bigger. But each time you click on that brush, it's going to leave a distinct rectangle. And since they're varying, or since the opacity is fairly low, they build up over each other in layers. And as you get closer to the top, you can actually start to drag a little bit. Because once we get to the top, we want it to be almost completely solid. So we'll also up the opacity when we start getting up here. You don't want to think too much about the layer itself, because we're doing this as a way of treating numerous images with the same kind of cropping or masking. So if we make it too image specific, like if we make our mask go around a tree or around the horseshoes in this case, it may not look as neat on a different image. So just make it kind of neutral. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a boost again with the opacity set all the way up. And I'm going to even click a few times down at the bottom with full opacity, just so that gives you little teases at the bottom of the image there too. And just for fun, let's see what it would look like with a black background and a white background. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Now that we've reached this point, I'm going to show you what's really cool about smart objects. If I click on this smart object layer here, and I go to the area just to the right of the layer mask and right click on it, it's going to give me a menu, and one of the options on that menu is New Smart Object via Copy. Now what that just did is it duplicated my original smart object, but it gave me a new smart object which is independently editable. That means I can double click on it to open up my smart object. I can get rid of that image that I placed in the first smart object and go to my file menu and place embedded and pick another image. Resize it to fill the space, save it, X out of that, and now I have two smart objects saved in my Photoshop document, and each one has a different image in it. And I can do that again. New smart object via Copy. Open up the smart object. Get rid of the image. Choose a new image. resize again. Enter, save, close, and I can do that as many times as my memory will allow. Just remember that every time you add a layer like this, the size of your document gets bigger. So if you have a computer that has low memory capacity, remember that it's going to significantly slow down the more layers you add to it. But now, once you've done that, once you've created your multi-layered image, say for example you're making a calendar and you want to have 12 images that are all treated with the same process. Well, when you're done, you can go to File, and instead of saving it with the Save command, you can go down to Scripts, and you can select Export Layers to Files. And what Photoshop will do now is it'll allow you to make a new folder and save those images as independent images. So you'll have 3 separate Photoshop documents